Technology, man.
A lot of moving parts and pieces.
I'm in.
I just saw that. Welcome. To those of you logging on early, be sure to share this feed to your page or profile. We want to welcome those of you who've just joined us. We've just gone live on the TikTok platform as well. So if you want to harass us, you have a better chance of doing that over there. Till you get blocked on that one too.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. You ready to be on camera?
Let's do it.
Again, welcome to those of you joining us on TikTok tonight. It's our newest platform. We're live streaming, multi-streaming to Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise broadcast. We are the only live, local, liberty-minded program right here in Kootenai County, where we expose the political power players, politicians, social influencers, sometimes power-playing pastors. They've become quite influential in the political realm. We're your hosts, Dan and Donna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments. You can get involved right there in the comment section. And then also, you're watching us live, so be sure to share this feed to your page or profile. And if you're listening back on our podcast, be sure to catch us live every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific time. A reminder that opinions expressed are ours only and not necessarily that of any of our advertisers, sponsors, affiliates, or guests. Tonight, we are asking a simple question. Who do these people think they work for? From Missouri to California to right here in North Idaho, we're seeing a growing pattern. Citizens show up, speak out, vote, petition, attend meetings, and raise concerns only to be ignored by the very people elected to represent them. In Missouri, residents pushed back against a massive data center project and voted out city council incumbents after accusing local leaders of ignoring public concerns. In California, voters successfully recalled elected officials who then refused to leave office. And here in Kootenai County, new information continues to emerge involving Sheriff Bob Norris, Coeur d'Alene city officials, the treatment of critics, members of the media, and ongoing questions surrounding accountability, transparency, and the use of government power. Joining us tonight is Lori Merriman from Wake Up JeffCo. She's going to be coming a little bit later in the program. Wake Up JeffCo is a grassroots citizen movement that helped organize opposition to a proposed $6 billion data center project in Festus, Missouri. We're going to talk about what happens when ordinary citizens decide they're no longer willing to just be ignored. We'll also examine recent developments involving local government, law enforcement, and the growing concern that some public officials have forgotten a fundamental truth. They don't rule the people, they work for the people.
Indeed.
As always, this is a live program. We want to hear from you. So again, get involved in that comment section, share this feed to your page or profile, or you can leave a voicemail or text throughout the program, 208-366-4671. This is Liberty Without Compromise. Let's get started. Here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Good evening, episode 77 of the Liberty Without Compromise broadcast, where we are committed and dedicated to all things securing our liberty without compromise. We are fastly approaching the 250th year of our independence. And as we get closer and closer to that monumental date, it's looking very similar to the very things that our founders took exception to, the King of England back in 1776. And as you recall, we believe here on Liberty Without Compromise, as the founders did when they espoused the positions and the philosophies of the greats like John Locke, who believed that all men are created equal in their value and worth under God, and that all men, as in the natural world, have the right to life, liberty, and property. We're all about dedicated to helping you learn what your true liberty is and how you can secure it. This episode tonight is going to be full of examples of people who are not trading their liberty, but are fighting back within the confines of the framework that the founders gave to us. We're very privileged tonight to talk with one such warrior, and we are going to jump right into it pretty darn quick. So,
well, yeah, I don't want to scare. We've got Lori who's waiting backstage. She's in the green room, so she's going to be with us here in a bit. But I think first thing, the most pressing thing, that T-shirt you're wearing. All right, so there's that. A little bit of a closer look. We had this posted up on our Facebook page or to some of our social media accounts sometime yesterday we did that. And boy, that sure raised a controversy. That got people all whipped up.
Yeah.
Got them all going crazy. And we had one guy, because we're going to talk about this. We're going to make a statement about this shirt and the statement on the shirt. But first we had this guy from the Post, Jake Godek. He was pretty mad. He was pretty mad about this shirt. And he says, let's schedule some mat time. You arrogant and tone-deaf human-shaped potato. Even after 3.5 years of constant chemo, surgeries, and medical challenges, I am a 52-year-old real Idahoan that will tie you into a little knot before shoving your head back up your boop boop. Then I'll dislocate your fingers one by one. Kind of a going away gift to remember us by.
Oh, is he finally going to kick the can and die?
Oh, no. Did you just say that?
Well, he said he's been battling cancer. I mean, if he wants something to
I think he
remember by.
Oh, so did you? That's.
Well, he can try if he wants to, but I mean, it's more, it amazes me how many people jump into the comments. They watch this show week after week, some of them religiously because they can't look away, and they don't know what this shirt means.
So let's make a statement about this shirt, because I know we got a lot to cover tonight and I don't want to hang on this too much. And I'm going to move through the statement as fast as I can. But I appreciate that this did get your guys' attention. And this one's funny. We just had a listener comment joining us there on YouTube that says skinny jokes are just as harmful as fat jokes, right? Yes. We're going to be equal opportunity. So a statement about the, quote, "you're fat and undisciplined," the T-shirt that Dan's wearing.
We knew it'd cause controversy.
We did. So yesterday, a photo of Dan wearing this shirt reads, "You're fat and undisciplined," generated exactly the reaction that we expected it to. Some people laughed. Some people were offended. Some immediately assumed it was directed at them personally.
Weird.
Yeah, it's like, hey, if you want to take that on, take it on by all means. But it wasn't. It wasn't. The shirt was never intended to be a commentary on a person's physical appearance. It was intended to make a statement about character, discipline, accountability, and personal responsibility. Over the last several years, Dan has been the target of really what are relentless attacks from political operatives, social media influencers, public officials, anonymous accounts like those burner accounts, and individuals who have sought to discredit him personally rather than address the facts and evidence being discussed. We've seen false accusations, attacks on family members, attacks on businesses, on qualifications, attacks on motives, and endless efforts to distract from the substance of important public issues. What's often overlooked is that Dan has never been the person who started these fights.
Indeed.
Ever. The record speaks for itself. The attacks came first. The smears came first. The false accusations came first. The attempts to destroy reputations, those all came first. The shirt is a response to a broader problem we see throughout our culture, and especially in politics and right here in Kootenai County, people who demand accountability from everyone else while refusing to exercise it themselves. Mm-hmm. When we use the word undisciplined, we're not talking about a number on the scale. We're not talking about your waistline. We're talking about a mindset. The shirt isn't about body fat. A lot of you got really offended and dropped all your excuses. Well, fill in the blank, because a lot of you owned that. And it's like, look, if that felt personally offended, there's probably some introspection that needs to happen. And like a lot of excuses were getting dropped in the comment section. But we're talking about character fat. And that is a term that I am now coining.
I have called out fat. Jim Putman. Yeah. When Jim Putman ran his mouth, we were exposing the sex abuse cover-ups at the local Candlelight Church that have gone unreported, and at the Altar Church. And Jim Putman decided to enter the arena on his own. Remember, folks, he's the one that came online to refute and to belittle the mission at hand. And my response to him as a megachurch pastor is, you are fat and undisciplined. We don't listen to you as a celebrity. We don't listen to fat and undisciplined men that want to lecture the rest of us. And we've also called others like Mike Petum, Pillsbury Petum, because of his abhorrent behavior. We call out Brad Cree, another fat ass that likes to run his mouth and to carry the works of those that he is doing the dirty deeds for. And the list goes on. And so, yes, every time you see this shirt, and they will be available for you, for those of you that want them, and you've messaged us already, it is to point out the fact that these evildoers in our own community oftentimes are the most fat, undisciplined beta males that group together in a gang because they can't stand on their own for the truth.
Yeah, this is about character fat, which really is far more egregious than that physical. Yeah, the physical is going to hurt you too, but you got a lack of discipline in living according to the standards that one demands of others. And that's where you're bringing in Jim Putman's name. A lack of discipline in telling the truth. That's where you bring in Brad Cree's name or Keith Bowe's name or Mike Petum's name. A lack of discipline in controlling one's emotions or treating others fairly or accepting responsibility. Many of these people who've spent years attacking Dan present themselves as leaders, and you've named names, experts or moral authorities. And that's where we talk about these power playing pastors, because they have done that same thing, fat and undisciplined, because their own behavior often reveals something very different. So that's the point of the shirt. We don't want to belabor it, but we can. It'll be a limited run and probably not necessarily available in multiple sizes. I don't know. You can guide and direct that one, but we can make those available on our website.
Picture TikTok. All right. Our friend over at Watchman Ministry has put out a great article that we're going to share with you guys real quick here. I'm going to give you a QR code. We want you guys to go to it. We have slide 1 to show the cover page. Take a look at this. It's a very well-written article. In fact, it ties in many ways to what we're getting ready to talk with our guest about. Sunshine Patriots, those aforementioned dudes, the fat and undisciplined dudes, they are, many of them, fair weather patriots and those that support them. When you are a Sunshine Patriot, you don't stand up for the hard things. You would not have been alongside Washington when he crossed the Delaware that cold Christmas Eve or Christmas night. And why modern Christians must reclaim courage, truth, and civic responsibility, folks. The government is turning into what it is right now because people have failed to be involved for a very long time. Many of you have left the heavy lifting to your neighbor because nothing's really affected you until they put a data center in your backyard. When they start telling you that your power rate is going to double because the demand is too great for the grid and the system. This is what we're seeing all over the country right now, and I'm encouraged by the response of the citizenry all over the great continental United States as their pushback against what their elected officials have been selling them out over. And we have a clip coming up here that we're going to play real quick and then bring on our guest.
Data center plans are being kept behind closed doors for months, but newly released records have revealed developers' plans for one Missouri city. Residents in Festus, Missouri have banded together to unveil emails and text messages between their city officials and development firm CRG, which pulled out of a controversial data center project in St. Charles. The communication records show officials knew about the data center plans long before they told the public. And that's not the only thing that came out of the over 200 documents revealed by residents. The emails and texts also show that CRG gave input into the city's data center rules as they were being written, that city leadership deliberately held closed-door meetings with CRG, and even that Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe took interest in the project ahead of a pivotal vote. I broke down all of the findings from the released records in this article. My colleague, 5 on Your Side political editor Mark Maxwell, also sat down with Festus City Administrator Greg Camp for a 30-minute interview. See our entire coverage on KSDK's site.
One of the stories we've been following tonight is what happens when citizens feel like the people making decisions are no longer listening to the people who elected them. Our next guest has been at the center of one of the most closely watched grassroots battles in the country over a proposed $6 billion data center project in Festus, Missouri. As residents began asking questions about transparency, public input, infrastructure, impacts, property values, and the long-term effects on their community, many felt their concerns were being dismissed rather than addressed. What followed was a citizen-led movement that grew from neighborhood conversations into organized public opposition, record voter turnout, lawsuits, recall efforts, and the removal of multiple elected officials. Joining us tonight is Lori Merriman of Wake Up JeffCo, a grassroots organization that has helped educate residents, organize community action, and push for greater transparency surrounding the proposed data center development. We're looking forward to hearing directly from Lori about how this movement began, what citizens in her community are fighting for, and what they've learned through the process, and also why she believes this issue matters not just in Missouri, but in communities all across the county facing similar battles. So with that, we welcome you, Lori. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Lori.
Thank you for having me.
Where are you joining us tonight from?
I'm in Festus, sitting in my dining room.
All right. Well, we know it's a couple hours later than here on the Pacific Coast, and we appreciate you staying up to give us a rundown on this battle that you guys have been waging for how long?
Since November of 25. That's when the residents found out about it.
Give us a little background.
So when we found out about this, we had 2 days to organize a community meeting before the next council meeting. So one of the other citizens that he was the first to find out about it held a town hall for the residents, and the developer actually showed up at this meeting. So his name is Chris McKee with CRG. He showed up, and I was sitting right in the front row. And one of my questions for Chris was, okay, we hear all these positives about data centers. Tell me what the negatives are, because I haven't heard any from any of the developers or anything else. What are the negatives? There has to be negatives. And he said, there are none, just misinformation, change. That's the only negative about a data center. And I said, well, this is going to be 1,500 feet from my house. Would you put it in your backyard? And for some context, he lives in Frontenac, Missouri, which is a very, very wealthy community, and said, yes, he would be fine putting it in his backyard. Well, he's welcome to do that because we don't want it here. In actuality, the talk started in early August of 2025. And then we go to August 8th, and our city administrator, Greg Camp, sent out a confidential email to the mayor and city council describing the discussions and explicitly marked it confidential. August 18th, Greg Camp sends another confidential email to council members. Between August and October 2025, according to Sunshine documents that we received, they specifically tried to avoid a quorum in meeting with CRG and stakeholders. So they met in numbers of 3, which is completely violates the Sunshine Law. I won't go through every single date here because we might be here for a while, but here's one of the text messages that came out in the Sunshine documents. It says that the Festus citizens are a sideshow of uneducated people. So that was in October of 2025, before we even knew about the data center coming. So they're already disparaging the residents without.
This is the developer saying this.
No, this was the city council saying this.
Got it. Okay.
And some of the texts were unnamed, so we don't know which one it was, but these were all documents retrieved through Sunshine Law. So CRG is finally publicly named in November of 2025 because the media got a hold of it somehow. And that's when we started moving forward, trying to scramble to figure out what we do, because this was going to be huge for our community. And then another text messages between the cities said, keep the flock herded or we roam into the wolves' territory. So now we're the flock and they need to keep us herded. So they rezoned the property, which was agricultural / residential, right in between other residential properties, to I-3, which is industrial zoning. Well, that's spot rezoning. And that's one of the allegations in our lawsuit against the city and CRG, because you can't do that without it being a great benefit to the surrounding residents. A data center is not going to be a great benefit to any of us. That a lot of us are on wells and, we're worried about the aquifer. I just built my dream home 3 years ago and thought this was going to be my forever home. We have 4.5 acres. We have a beautiful view. And all I can think about is now I'm going to hear a hum of the data center. I'm going to see lights instead of just a dark sky and stars. And my home is 1,500 feet from it, but there are others that are actually more like 1,000 feet from it. So there was so much non-transparency that it's really kind of gross what our city officials did to the residents. Like you had said earlier, the government works for us. We tell them what to do. They don't tell us what's going to happen.
Now, are these council people nobility? Are they kings?
Well, they think they are, especially the mayor.
Or are they elected?
They're elected. They're all elected.
And so when they're saying to referencing the flock, what did they say again?
Keep the flock herded is what they said.
So they think they're the good shepherds on all of you.
Correct. And they also said that once the citizens found out that we were getting an Olive Garden here in Festus, that this would just all go away. We'd forget it. We'd forget all about this. I mean, it's just really disgusting, some of the communication in the documents that we discovered.
And they're just that stupid or arrogant that they don't think that these are open for public records requests, FOIA, right?
I guess not. And that's just it, is that I think, by the uneducated comments, they thought that nobody here would figure it out. They think somebody else called us dumb hicks. Mm-hmm. Also.
When they rezoned this to, what is it, I-3, I believe you said?
Yes.
Did they have any kind of hearings or announcements for the community? And if so, did anybody wonder why are they changing from, I'm guessing, rural? Sounds like that you would be zoned currently rural to this industrial 3. I mean, did any of that happen?
Yes, they did, but they advertised the meeting regarding this in a publication called The Countian, which is really a legal publication. It's, lawyers get it and you see probate stuff. It's not something that a regular citizen is going to pick up and look at.
Sure.
And normally all of the announcements are made in a paper called The Leader, which is a local Jefferson County-wide paper. So that's one of our allegations too, is they didn't properly, they set a precedence by putting it in The Leader before, and now all of a sudden, why are they putting it in the county and that nobody is going to read?
So you find out all of this shenanigans that are going on. This is back in November. You quickly join, you gather up somebody that was opposed to it, had their own town hall, gathered as many of the community as possible. And then what? What did you guys begin to do?
So then we started going to the council meetings, and I'll be completely upfront that until this started, I have never been to a city council meeting or a county council meeting. So one thing I can say to people is pay attention to your local government. I've always been involved in federal politics. However, I've never paid attention to local, and I think the local is just as important, if not more, than federal, because it's going to affect you more directly than any of the federal politics will. Indeed.
Absolutely. So you guys gather together November. Walk us through the next steps and kind of where you got to today. Tell us that timeline.
Sure. So we went to the council meeting where they rezoned it, and their comments were, well, we're just rezoning it. We don't have a data center coming in. That's all conjecture. That's just hypothetical, and we can't talk about hypotheticals because they don't exist. Well, again, through sunshine documents, we have proof that they were talking about a data center long before, and CRG was also involved in putting our rezoning together and the data center approval that the city had to put in and what they were going to say. So CRG dictated to the city what they wanted all of the documents to say, which was, that was insane. So then we're to the point now where we're still trying to scramble, really trying to figure out what to do to fight this, because nobody's ever done this before. So we get to finally February, and some of us met at a local restaurant, and we kind of discussed what we would do. And so we decided we needed to form an LLC to start raising money. So that's when I was the only one that would volunteer to be the sole member of the LLC. So I did that based on an attorney's advice, said you don't need anybody else on it. Just go ahead and put it on yourself. That's going to protect you. Any money you raise, you don't need to be a nonprofit. Any money you raise, it's going to be gone quickly because it's for attorney fees. That's what we formed the LLC and to file the lawsuit under. So we did that last February. And since then, we had been begging our city council to host the council meetings in a larger venue or have a town hall so that we could have a dialogue, because at the city council meetings, you talk to them for 5 minutes. They don't answer you. You're
Right.
just basically talking to them.
Open
And,
mic.
Yeah, our council room holds maybe 30 people, and we would have 100 plus. There'd be overflow outside. There'd be people picketing on the streets, and they would never do it. Finally, in March, they held a meeting on March 23rd at the high school gymnasium. We packed it. And all along, they've been calling us the vocal minority. And we've been telling them, we're not the vocal minority. We are the vocal majority. And majority of the people in Festus do not want this data center. So then the next meeting was also at the high school. And I noticed that Chris McKee from CRG was there, and there was a much larger police presence there. And that was the night that they were going to vote on whether or not they were going to sign the contract. So as soon as I saw CRG there, who hadn't been to a meeting since the very beginning, I knew that they were going to vote to approve it. And the vote was 6-2. So there were
6-2.
Correct. There were 2 council members that did not vote for the data center. But at that point, it didn't matter because they had the majority. So then April 8th is when Wake Up JeffCo filed the lawsuit against Festus and CRG. So, and the lawsuit is like 90 pages long. There's like 50 or 60 counts. what the city and CRG has violated in that lawsuit. And since then, they've just been trying to delay by filing motions or refusing to provide documents that were requested during discovery. They just flat out refused to. So then April 7th came along too, right before that. That's when 4 members of the city council were voted out. 4, and 2 of them voted against the data center, but they were still voted out because they should have been voting no all along if they were against this. They should have been voting no, so they showed their true colors. So the residents weren't happy. It was a record turnout for a local election. I was at the polls all day, and that's the day we also started our recall on March 23rd as well at the council meetings. And we had 60 days to collect all the signatures for the recall for the mayor and the remaining 4 council members. One of the council members, Stacy, she resigned because she wanted to go out with dignity. And she was one of the ones that voted no for the data center, but she resigned. That council seat is still open to this day. And our city administrator took a job in Silverthorne, Colorado. So he created this mess and then took off to Colorado. We still don't have a sitting city administrator either. So our council is down people. They're not doing anything about it. They refuse to accept the recall. Our county clerk approved and certified the recall efforts. It was sent to the city. The city attorney said, they don't have enough proof here. You don't have to, you can vote on this. Nowhere in Missouri statutes say that if there's a recall, that the council that you're trying to recall gets to vote whether or not they stay in their seat. They basically just refused to vacate their positions and put it on the ballot in August. So now we're filing a writ of mandamus to try and get them to forcefully do their duty and follow the law that Missouri sets forth. So that's kind of where we are today. We've had discussions with many of the council members. They just don't want to listen. They've lied to us. I'm frequently sending things to council members that I'm finding in sunshine documents saying, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember saying this? And, they don't answer me because I'm suing them, but I'm still going to remind them of what they said to the citizens that, okay, I'm going to support the data center until we just determine that the residents don't want this. The residents have spoken loud and clear.
So going back, you guys find out about this in November. By March, the city council approves the contract with CRG.
Correct.
To allow this. How large? I know it's like what, $6 billion. How big is the property?
The property is 361 acres. And what corporation or what responsible corporation pushes through a $6 billion project within a matter of months? Yeah. It's mind-blowing to me how quickly they were trying to push this through. And now I know that they were trying to push it through before the election in April, because I think that they knew that many of their days were numbered.
So there are 8 council members and a mayor for
and the
9
mayor only
total.
votes in a tie.
Similar to where we currently live. But you guys find them voting in favor for this monstrosity. They're cramming it down your guys' throats. By a month later, 4 of the council members were voted out. Is that correct?
Correct.
And 1 resigned?
Yep. And then we recalled 3 other council members and the mayor, but they refused to accept it and leave the office. So I believe it's all a delay tactic just to keep getting their way on this with the developer. Bob Clark, who owns CRG and Clayco, a little background there, they are one of the largest data center developers in the United States.
They are. They
So
built
Bob
Amazon
Clark,
plants too, as I recall.
Yep. Bob Clark went on TV and did like an hour-long extended interview and said that they had visited Festus residents. They went to people's homes and met with them. And that until Festus rejects this, again, he said, if the people of Festus don't want this, we're not going to put it there. So I emailed Bob recently and I said, hey, Bob, I said, when have you visited residents' homes? And, what about if the residents don't want it, you won't come put it in our area? And he responded and he copied Chris McKee and Tasha Doss, who are the CRG president and vice president. And he said, Lori, I appreciate your tenacity. I didn't mean to misrepresent anything, but we did go and meet with your subdivision president and spoke with a couple other residents. Well, guess what? I'm my subdivision president, so he did not meet with me. And I responded to that, and there was no response from that. And I'm pretty sure at that point that Chris McKee said, don't respond to her again. She's suing us. Like, he had no clue who I was. He owns this company and he's talking about this development, but he has no idea who the people are here.
So for our viewers, I hope you are capturing what is being relayed here.
Absolutely.
Somebody is having the time of their life building their dream home in a rural setting. And next thing they know, without any knowledge, without any consent, their local city council decides to backdoor them by rezoning the land in order to make it compatible with the type of industry that is moving in there, this data center, over 350 acres.
Correct.
And they were ramming it through at record pace. I'm in commercial construction. There are times where a small project, I can't get through the permitting process in less than, 3 months, 90 days.
Right.
You're talking about 300 acres. You have to have state, you have to have federal when it comes to environmental, reviews. And so something tells me that they were doing this for quite a long time.
I think it was before August. I mean, the documents that we have start in August, but I believe that there were probably conversations that may not be sunshineable going on.
I know that because I have received requests to bid on these projects, these data centers before, not as the general, but as a sub tier, because they're, very, very expensive buildings and they need all sorts of subcontractors to come through and do doors and hardware and steel stud framing, et cetera. But before we can even look at the plans, we have to sign an NDA. And
Correct.
This is pretty common. So anytime we get a request from a project where there's an NDA, we always know with certainty that it's for one of these data centers. So I'm curious how they were able to get through approaching the government. And by that, I'm also assuming that they would have to meet. So Festus is a city inside a county.
Correct. Third-class city.
Who's in charge of building as far as the building review of structures and whether or not they're compatible with the zoning? That has to be the city of Festus, correct?
Yes, they have a planning and zoning committee who the mayor just appointed one of the voted out council members to the planning and zoning committee. So he's right back in another position of power. And it's insane that our mayor just won't listen to us.
Is there any talk from your council, maybe you can or can't even share this, of criminality by these councilmen that you guys are suing?
Well, I'll just say it like this. There's no proof at this point. But I'm trying to figure out why they're pushing this so much and why they're doing so many closed door, backdoor sessions without involving the community. They told us that we would be able to do, question and answers. They sent out the development agreement on a Friday and the vote was on a Monday. So there was barely any time to review it. They promised that it would be union labor. They promised that there would be a prevailing wage. They promised all these things. There would be no wells drilled by the developer. Well, then come to find out, when this document comes out, it says we will attempt to hire union workers. We will attempt to pay a going wage. We will not drill a well, but the city is going to drill 2 public wells. So there was a lot of bait and switch that, the people were promised things that the city never delivered on.
What's in it for the city? I mean, if the council members aren't getting stipends or, kickbacks for ramming this down everyone's throats, not caring for their fellow citizen, what's the benefit to the community? What's the benefit to the tax base?
So originally it started as a community benefit agreement, which quickly changed to a development agreement. The community was taken out of the agreement. And the city is going to get a $5 million new firehouse, which is right by the data center. So they're going to need fire very close, because I was just I spent all day today at the Capitol in Jefferson City, Missouri, at a protest and a conference that people spoke, and there were 84 fires at a data center within a 2-year period. So if you think about that, the heat and everything else on these computers that sit in there, and, a lot of people are not against progress, but first of all, where they're putting it, what's going to happen to our property values? They're offering to buy out 10 homes, 10, that's it, that are closest to the data center. And they're offering them their value of June 1st of 2025 plus 10%. Well, if you think about that, these are billionaires that have money. These people, some of them probably just remodeled their home. They have to pay for moving expenses. Their interest rates are probably much lower than they are now. So 10% isn't going to be enough for everybody to start over that don't want to remain within the zone of the data center. There's just been so much that has been smacks in the face, and people are just really fed up. And, I'm so proud of our community for joining together like we did. No one person could ever do this fight on their own. Not one. It started with a small group, but then it grew and it grew and it grew. And we got out there in the public. We went to every council meeting. We had signs made. We sold signs for their people's yards just to raise money for the attorney fees. So you can drive around Festus and you see these signs everywhere. And it's very promising that the residents have stepped up, but our city council won't.
David versus Goliath.
Exactly. But
how big is Festus as far as population?
About 14,000 people.
14,000, and these knuckleheads don't think that they have family or friends that are going to be affected by this?
Right. And we're about 30 miles from St. Louis. So
how many are in your movement right now that are working with you? Do you have any of those numbers as far as those committed to fighting this?
So, I mean, I don't think I could even count it right now, because people have been so, they've been sending me ideas for fundraisers. They say, I'll put this on myself. You don't have to do this. Because I'm just a normal person. I have a full-time job. I'm working on this. I'm running all of the funds for this campaign, and keeping track of all of that. So I've had so many people reach out that are willing to help and speak, and people that are good researchers that are pouring through the FOIA documents to pull out things that are red flags. And we're not done with those yet. We've got somebody still working on FOIA documents that we found even more things that hasn't even been brought up yet. And certain items that we have found to be requested earlier, they said that those documents didn't exist, but they've given them in other documents. So it's kind of like,
They're doing whatever the hell they want to do.
Right. And one other thing is that all of the tax abatements are going to run through our Port Authority. So, and they're going to use Chapter 100 bonds to fund this project. And so it's like, well, what's the Port Authority have to do with this data center? And the Port Authority is in trouble. The Port Authority is in trouble. So I think there's some kind of financial gain because they have a big balloon payment due on a loan that they used to purchase the port. So it's just all intertwined.
So you're having problems here locally. Is there any help from county officials, state officials, or even your federal representation?
So Josh Hawley is our senator, and we have been reaching out to him because he just did an interview or a speech at a meeting recently, and he specifically mentioned Festus and about our fight. He says he's against the data centers, but nobody can get through to him, and he hasn't been a help. We've sent things to the Secretary of State. I filed a complaint with the Missouri Bar Association against our city attorney for advising that they can vote on the recall. We're doing everything we can in droves, everybody that's involved, so we're flooding them with it. When I first made a complaint to the Attorney General's office, probably back in December, I was told by them that this was a personal matter. I'm like, this is against a government that's, violating the sunshine laws. This is not a personal matter. This is a community problem and a government problem.
Indeed.
So,
well, tell us and our viewers what they should be doing right now in their communities, whether or not they have any rumors of a data center that is going to be coming into their community or not. What should the citizenry be doing right now to get ahead of the curve and not find themselves in the position you guys found yourself in just last November?
I would say get a resident meeting together, gather some residents that are willing to help, then start showing up to your council meetings. Start speaking at the council meetings. I think there's been one council meeting since November that I didn't speak at because I was out of town. But organizing, talking to an attorney, whether it's just to get some initial advice, if you're going to start raising money, start raising it now because it's going to be expensive for an attorney. And they're going to try and bankrupt you, which is exactly what they're trying to do. But we keep raising more money. Thank God for our community that's willing to still help. Just get organized is what I would say is the most important thing. And FOIA request documents. If there's a rumor, just start FOIA requesting things. If you make the FOIA request small enough, then they shouldn't be charging you for that FOIA documents. But people are making them too large, and they're coming back and saying, oh, it's going to be $700 to produce these documents. So if you keep it simple and get many people to request this stuff, and then get a OneDrive or something to where everybody can look at this stuff in the community and start getting researchers to pull out things that are red flags in the FOIA documents, and then push back on the council or the committee, whatever, commissioners push back on it of what they said and what you found in the FOIA documents. We had somebody do a whole speech about, they said, well, now the cat's out of the bag. Well, she did a whole speech about why are cats in bags? That all came out through FOIA documents. And it was pretty comical, but it was really ingenious, the speech that she gave.
We live in North Idaho. We are right near the border of Washington State in Spokane County. Mm-hmm. Just a few weeks ago, it was discovered that there was an anonymous group that was looking to buy approximately half of the current Avista powers, what they're currently generating and serving the local Spokane, North Idaho region, that they wanted to, this new developer or customer wanted to take half again as much for what turns out to be a data center. And the people up here were not very happy about it when they heard about this. We happen to be very close to the Columbia River and the Snake River. We have a lot of hydroelectric dams, but we've started to see our time of use rates going up. And, they're always telling us the grid's at capacity and we're going to have rolling brownouts. But, what I'm noticing is this is no longer a right versus left, Democrat versus Republican. Yeah. This really has to do with the people, we the people, correct, against the global government hybrid technocrats that are, in essence, because of their billions of dollars, they are coming in and having their way with us. Kind of like Teddy Roosevelt when he was dealing with some of the monopolies back in the early 1900s. Similar, we're seeing these billionaires that they can buy whatever they want.
Yeah, and they can keep us in court as long as they want. But I think that because of some of the motions that they're filing, I think that they've really got something to hide, and that they know we have a decent case. Our lawyer is fantastic. He's actually an environmental attorney, and he is now representing 12 different communities in Missouri. Started out, we were his second community, and now he's got 12. So that's how far and wide this is going in Missouri right now. The United States has about 5,400 data centers, and people keep saying, "Oh, well, unless you want to learn to speak Mandarin, we better build."
Yeah, that argument with Kevin Leary on Tucker Carlson, it was bullshit. I cannot believe that they're attempting to use. It's always, I was former law enforcement, and you hear these sheriffs today that want to put out their LPRs and all this surveillance data. It's because, why? The public safety. It's for officer safety. And we're not buying this anymore. We're not buying that China is going to take us over because we don't have this, what is becoming the digital gulag for all of us.
Yes, it's basically social engineering. Everybody's going to have a social credit score. They're monitoring everything. They're going to price gouge things when they see that you buy X, Y, or Z a lot. Then they're going to raise the price on that for you. And I think China's got like 435 data centers, and how many billion people? So we don't need all these new data centers.
Indeed. Well, we greatly appreciate your time. We have a QR code up there that I'm hoping the folks will go to, you out there, the watchers, to follow this fight. Remember, just because they are across the Rockies and the other side of the Mississippi does not mean that their fight is irrelevant to us right here, right now.
Correct.
So every chance you get, support those across the great fruited plains around this great country of ours that are fighting for liberty. Remember, it is the citizens themselves that have to rise up, because we are living in times where the government no longer represents the people, and it's up to the citizens to take that power back. So, Lori, we're going to be watching your guys' fight. We appreciate our good friend, Jen Noel, who was able to help us make contact. And we greatly appreciate your time and your encouragement to us here in the Great Northwest.
Again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
One more question, Lori, before you go. Is there a way, I don't want to send people directly to you necessarily, because you got a lot going on, but is there a clearinghouse for information where it serves as like a template for what you guys have learned going through this? Because we know this is being rolled out in counties all across the U.S. The QR code is an article from, you guys were at the state capitol and protest today, and that's what that is. So, if people want to be able to digest more as like a template of what you're doing, is there a place for them to be able to do that? You might not be that far along.
Yeah, we're not quite that far along, but we do have a website, wakeupjeffco.org.
Perfect.
And there's an email in there. It's info@wakeupjeffco.org. So if anybody has any specific questions, we're happy. It's monitored by several people. And we're happy to reach out and help anybody any way that we can, because we know what the fight is like.
Indeed. Lori, thank you so much. God bless you. Stay strong and courageous, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
And it doesn't just stop in Festus, Missouri. It also happens way out in progressive, nice West Coast California. Take a look at what these folks are dealing with in their little city.
Recalled Avenal City Council members took the dais despite a cease and desist by the Kings County District Attorney last week. The mayor says he hasn't stepped down because he feels it's his duty to continue serving the city despite the recall vote. Our Brianna Bias shows us how the community reacted to the recalled city council members taking the dais.
Avenal voters served the city a civil restraining order today. Their message: acknowledge the results of the recall election and stop spending taxpayer dollars. Community members crowded into the Avenal City Council meeting Thursday, even though most of them didn't see it as a legitimate city council meeting at all.
You've been recalled. You are not supposed to be there. It is unlawful for you to even be holding this non-meeting. We legally voted you out with more votes than voted you in.
4 out of the 5 Avenal City Council members were overwhelmingly voted out of office in a recall election April 28th. But here they sit 6 weeks later, continuing to make funding decisions for the city.
I believe in public service. It's a commitment, it's a responsibility.
Voters served each of the recalled council members civil restraining orders Thursday.
They were recalled back on April 28th, and when it was validated the last city council meeting on May 28th, they were told to vacate their seats. It's not a valid council meeting.
The one city council member to escape the recall, Ricardo Verdugo, says he only attended Thursday's meeting out of protest.
My appearance should not be interpreted as a consent, ratification, or acknowledgement of the legality of this meeting.
The Constitution of Southern California says that there is a due process. There's a process for a recall election. So the very first step is for the register of the county or whoever runs the election to certify the results. The second step is for the local government, which now is the city council, to accept or reject that certification.
So the recalled council members went into closed session to discuss whether or not to accept the results of the recall election. Verdugo did not go with them.
I'm the only city council member at this time. This meeting is not even legal. There's no quorum, so there's no reason for me to go in there.
When the recalled council members came back from closed session, they voted to keep themselves in office. Residents say they believe the sheriff's office will get involved when the time is right, but they hope the time will be right very soon. In Avenal, I'm Brianna Bias, KC24, local news that matters.
You recall city council members, and they just say, "Screw you. We're gonna stay here, and we'll let due process work its way through."
They compared this one to the Seinfeld episode where George, I don't know, you were
George
really
Costanza,
a Seinfeld
no,
fan,
I'm not.
but George Costanza got
Not
fired.
a Seinfeld
no,
fan.
he got fired, but he kept showing up for work.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they were doing.
What do you do when you start to observe government at all levels basically saying, F you, we're going to do whatever we want to do? I first started really noticing this during the first Trump administration. Trump would put an executive order out or, some dictate, and they basically would say, yeah, screw you. We're going to keep doing what we want to do. We're not going to listen. And then when Biden came in and Biden was told, no, you're not going to forgive student loans, he basically said, screw you, I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. It's a trend. And then we see it locally. We're seeing it with these data centers. We're seeing it with city council members and county members that are saying, F you, we're going to do what we want to do. And there's nobody that's stopping any of this. We're going to have a conversation about government in general. How many of you know what government really is for? Why do we have a government? Why was it necessary to form the United States of America? Have you ever pondered that question? Ultimately, when a group of people come together to covenant together, to live together, to consent to living among each other. It's primarily for protection. That is the primary reason. And in these great United States, the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, it does not matter which state you're in, the Constitution still reigns supreme. The form of government still reigns supreme. But the government almost didn't happen because the anti-federalists came in and said, yeah, no thanks. We don't like the form of government you guys have just erected. We don't like it because you really haven't done anything but shift the chess pieces around a little bit, but all the same players are there. They're just on different parts of the board. And there is nothing protecting the people. You're calling it a constitutional republic. And, you know, you have some great arguments, Madison and Jay and Hamilton. But yeah, like Patrick Henry passed, we're not going to do it. So they rolled out the Bill of Rights. And I'm going somewhere with this. Our form of government, a constitutional republic, is based upon the rule of law specifically to protect your natural rights, the laws of nature and of nature's God, your rights to life, liberty, and property, and the restrictions the government has, where these restrictions keep the government and others from violating your personal liberty. But that's what it means when you consent to be governed by your peers under the rule of law. But how does that work? Let's go back a little bit here to Kootenai County, and we're going to weave in how the United States Constitution came to be, how it works, and why it matters today right here, whether it's in Festus or whether it's in Kootenai County. Government is supposed to protect your rights, period, not violate them. Penny Collinson has been a frequent target of Sheriff Bob Norris. Now, some of you out there don't buy that Bob Norris said extremely explicit, sexually explicit things, derogatory things to her at the town hall back in April of 2024 when Bob was a candidate. But let's take a look a little bit about what our local sheriff that's supposed to protect people's constitutional rights, what that looks like. I recall to page number 2. And this is right after Penny Collinson sent out her tort claim to the county because of what she alleges that Bob Norris said to her at this public event. And I will remind you that there are those who have heard John Padula, two-time failed county commissioner candidate and vice chair of the KCRCC, John Padula, who told people firsthand that what Penny Collinson said happened actually happened. It's in writing. After this tort claim, Bob Norris, sheriff of Kootenai County, takes to his official sheriff letterhead and he puts out this media release that at the time it came out, I was his opponent. I called this a ransom, a ransom. What would you call it?
You said it was putting a bounty on,
like in the old West days. Mm-hmm. Sheriff Norris offers $10,000 reward in frivolous lawsuit. Sheriff Norris is being accused in a tort claim of saying derogatory statements towards Penny Ann Collinson at an April campaign event in front of about 50 people. Not only are these allegations false, Sheriff Norris is posting $10,000 of his own money for a video proof of such frivolous claims made by Ms. Collinson. Ms. Collinson's allegations are 100% false. This frivolous tort claim is similar to the one filed by failed 2020 sheriff candidate John Grimm before the May 24 primary. This is another effort to tarnish Sheriff Norris's credibility. Quote, I will not allow political operatives to tarnish my reputation, says Norris. There is a small group of people who think it's okay to use the judicial system to smear local elected officials, and that needs to stop. Sheriff Norris is offering $10,000 of his own money for any video evidence made by his accuser. Sheriff Norris is evaluating all options, including a countersuit where he can seek damages from these false allegations. Some of you that aren't paying attention go, okay, well, so what? He's just saying that he's innocent and he's responding in kind, except for he is the sheriff, protects everyone's rights. That is what his job is to do. And he uses county resources and his official public letterhead to offer a $10,000 bounty for anybody that can provide information to show that she is lying. Norris goes after his political opponents all the time. We're going to go to the next page here. We've now talked about this for 3 or 4 weeks. Ryan McClintock, the kid that went down, broke the windows out of the sheriff's office, claiming that he was going to arrest Norris, was arrested and charged, has been held in solitary confinement for 2 months, last I checked. But during this time, while Ryan is awaiting his various court dates, within hours, associate of Sheriff Norris, Brett Nelson, failed police officer, sheriff's deputy, less than a year of service over in Shoshone County. We hear the rumors as to why he was fired. We don't know the official reason yet. But you have Brett acting on behalf of Sheriff Norris, talking to the sister of the defendant, Ryan McClintock. We've showed you these text messages, but we're going to go over them again because we cannot let this drop. Remember, Coeur d'Alene Police was the investigative agency for this event. Norris runs the jail, the county jail, but he and his agency are not part of the investigation. And there is a protection order of sorts. It's a no contact order that's issued where McClintock cannot contact Norris, even through third parties. Brett Surplus claims the sheriff just called me and said, if you talk to your brother, have him ask to speak to Sheriff Norris, to the watch commander, because he's got to do it. And then Bob's going to get you your release. Next page. And Norris is on the same page as long as Coeur d'Alene PD hasn't confiscated his phone for evidence. And yes, they want to know Donna's involvement because that's conspiracy. Jessica goes on in her TikTok video, and we have found out personally that Surplus and Padula were urging her to speak out against us, and more specifically, that they wanted to tie Donna and I into this crime that took place. They wanted Jessica to testify that we, which had nothing to do with Ryan and his actions of that day, they wanted to tie us into it. They wanted to plant that information into the investigator. Bob was quite adamant and desperate to get into Ryan's phone. Why? Why does the sheriff, who he's really good at donut meet and greets, he's good at pizza meets and town halls and dragging citizens that he doesn't like out, half arresting them and dragging them out by his goon squads, violating civil rights there. Why does he care about an investigation? And we know why. We know that Norris, unless Surplus is that much of a liar, but we don't have Norris coming out and refuting any of this. Surplus, through Norris, attempting to frame a citizen for a crime. And then you have Casey Whalen and again, Penny Collinson, weird, who has an active lawsuit against Bob Norris for that town hall event. Trials to take place in March. Casey Whalen was already approved by the court, specifically to be a court reporter to video. Let's take a look at the clip number 3. Casey gives us a review of what just took place here in the past 2 weeks when he was reporting on the red Tundra that crashed out corner of Niter and 95 near the Raising Cane's Chicken restaurant. Take a look at this clip. Is it not playing?
Seems to be some kind of technical issue with the file itself.
Casey goes on and publishes a audio that he took of Coeur d'Alene police who contacted him and started prying into his interview that he did with the worker at Cane's Chicken, who spent about 20 minutes in great detail describing the accident. Claims he was an eyewitness. It almost took him and his coworkers out as they were standing outside by the reader board for the ordering the chicken at Cane's. That Norris was pulled out of the truck. The engine block was inside the cab. Airbag on the passenger side was deployed, and a Asian woman was in the passenger seat. And for 20 minutes, he gave a very detailed firsthand eyewitness account, allegedly. No point did Casey ever claim that Bob Norris did these things. Some of you have lambasted him and said, well, you know what? He should have got Norris's side of the equation. Well, that would be awesome. However, 2 years earlier, at a public setting where Norris was caught on a hot mic, giving a talk to who else but the idiots at the KCRCC and all their cohorts, the pachyderms, where he called out others like Teresa Bornpole, the woman that he went on to assault 2 years later and falsely arrest, and Quincy Franklin. But he mentioned Casey Whalen. Casey Whalen is not a journalist, a real journalist, according to Bob Norris, the sheriff. He's a propagandist. He's not credible. And he's made it well known over the past several years, he won't give Casey the time of day. And it is my belief that what Casey did, while it looks like he was duped in this story, it's no different than a reporter from legacy media showing up to a scene and interviewing people. And as a former police officer, I can tell you on big, chaotic scenes, you could interview 3 people that all have 3 separate, believable stories as to what occurred and what they believed occurred according to their perception. It turned out, after the bumbling of Dave Hagar, an ISP, Dave Hagar, acting chief of Coeur d'Alene PD, and the disjointedness with Norris's then attack on Casey Whalen, and I guess he didn't necessarily name Casey, I don't recall, but, keyboard journalist, that it was false. Norris, we find out, then 6 Coeur d'Alene police on Casey and Penny Collinson, attempting to interview both of them about the event. Let's go to page number 5 of our slide. This is a quick overview. You're not going to be able to read this. We're going to break it down for you, but Jason, is it Staley or Stanley? Do you recall?
It's Jason Stanley, Kootenai County Corruption.
Okay, so he has been up in the business of all sorts of elected folks here in Kootenai County. He's got an axe to grind. That's very obvious. Uses a lot of AI for his data. He aggregates a lot of stuff. Apparently, he wrote some programs to help him aggregate information, but he puts out a lot of info. And apparently, this email, which is now public, was issued by Jason, and it was sent to all sorts of government officials, including Mayor of Coeur d'Alene, Dan Gookin, former Chief Lee White, although I don't think he's there anymore, many of the city council members, to include Amy Evans, Chrissy Wood, Dirtbag Dan Scheckler, Doug Akunowitz, Ben Tays. He threw everybody into this email that he sent out to all of these elected officials, asking some very pointed questions. Let's go to the next slide here. Here is a response from Mayor Dan Gookin to Kootenai corruption, dated the 14th. What you see here in red is the original questions from Jason Stanley, and the black are, I believe, the responses from Dan Gookin. First question Jason asked, number one, are you aware of a Coeur d'Alene Police Department criminal investigation involving Penny Collinson? Dan Gookin, I'm not aware of any criminal investigation by the Coeur d'Alene PD involving Miss Collinson. Second question, did you or did anyone in your office request, direct, or encourage CDA PD to open any investigation involving Miss Collinson, Casey Whalen, or any persons associated with reporting on or witnessing the May 16, 2026 crash near Safeway in Coeur d'Alene? We all found out later on there's former Deputy Kirk Kelso, not Bob Norris. Dan Gookin's response, not to my knowledge. I did not make any directions regarding these individuals or topics. Okay, that's interesting. Not to my knowledge. Okay. To my knowledge, to use Bruce Matari and his gotcha question to me, it should be absolutely I did not. Take that for what you want. Number 3 question. Ms. Collinson has a pending civil lawsuit against Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris with a trial date of March 27. Given that timing, what is the public safety basis for a criminal investigation involving the plaintiff in the case? Dan Gookin's response is, I am unaware of any criminal investigation on this topic. Question number 4. On June 10, 2026, Coeur d'Alene PD Detective Chapman contacted journalist Casey Whalen by phone regarding his coverage of the May 16, 2026 crash. Was that contact authorized by your office or Coeur d'Alene PD command staff? Gookin's response, I do not personally authorize the actions, nor do I provide direction to the PD command staff. That is beyond my role as mayor. Let's go to the next page. Go one more. Starting with number 5. Thank you. Last question, number 5. I am separately filing a public records request with the city of Coeur d'Alene for communications between your office and Coeur d'Alene PD on this subject. Is there anything you would like to say for the record before the request is processed? Mayor Gookin's response, I believe you will find no records. I did phone Captain Hager to ask him what the deal was with the crash, since social media won't shut up about it. He informed me that it was not Sheriff Norris in the red truck. Norris was out of the county. It was a medical incident. The driver is working or has worked in the sheriff's office. And here it is, folks. Pay attention, that the sheriff wanted to, quote, go after Casey Whalen. But for such a case to be valid, it would have to be proven that Casey planned it all in advance or something to that effect. That appears not to be the case. Next page. From Captain Dave Hagar, Coeur d'Alene PD, who was not selected to be the new chief of Coeur d'Alene PD, much to the agony of Gookin. His response is, on Friday, May 29th, Under Sheriff Brett Nelson contacted me on behalf of the sheriff who wanted a slander investigation conducted based on social media statements. The allegations appeared to have occurred in the jurisdiction of the CDA Police Department, and with any other allegation of a crime in our jurisdiction, we took a report and conducted an investigation. I connected the undersheriff with our investigation lieutenant to keep up any reporting of that incident. I have no other involvement in the investigation or direction of the investigation of this incident. The only name I was aware of connected to this incident prior to your email was Casey Whalen. Pull that slide back down. Some of you simpletons out there, again, you don't understand why this matters. It's okay for a sheriff to come out and refute allegations, to make public statements about it. That's understandable. In fact, some of my most favorite sheriffs don't take lying about them very well. But the difference is, in my experience and what I know about Bob Norris, is Bob Norris is not a truthful person. In fact, we can go all the way back, just a simple one, just one example. When he lied to the LA Sheriff's Department photographer trying to get photos of Mike Bauer. We have the text messages. Jaime Lopez testified to Mike Bauer. The Norris contacted him during the 2020 campaign and attempted to fraudulently obtain records, namely photos of Captain Mike Bauer, to use against Mike Bauer, claiming to Jaime Lopez that Bauer had a flood in his house and he was assisting him replace some things that had been destroyed, and they were looking for pictures. That's just one example. I guess here's the number two one. Bob Norris lying about his residency on his tax exemption for his residence he owned up here while he was voting down in California. Okay, Bob Norris is a liar. But Bob Norris, because he is unchecked by anyone, continues to get worse and worse as time goes by. How many tort claims lawsuits are we in right now?
We're up to 5. I was working on getting those up on the website with links to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what each of them are about. Just need to review it a little bit more to make sure our facts are correct. But yeah, he's 5 in between active lawsuits.
The big ones with Teresa Borenpool, McClintock,
Greg Johnson.
Well, I haven't heard what Greg Johnson's is right now. Maybe Scheckler can tell us. I think I did verify it's in the tort phase. Still, torts are usually only 90 days. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe they settled. We don't know, but it is a pattern, and nobody, and I mean nobody, take it from me, puts a stop or a check on Bob Norris. He does whatever the hell he wants. And in fact, his undersheriff, what a disappointment that dude is, claims he's not political. And yet he's the one that really runs the day-to-day operations. Brett Nelson, you don't have a backbone to say to Norris, no, I'm not going to contact Coeur d'Alene PD to ask them to investigate somebody that you believe might have slandered you. I mean, hey, Bob, by the way, there's civil defamation lawsuit you can file. Maybe you forgot about the slap stuff. And Dave Hagar, what a cuck you are. Yeah, I called you a cuck. Let's go ahead and play clip number 4, because I guess you have a short memory what Bob Norris did to your own agency, including you and Chief White, former Chief White, and now former detective, but now Chief of Police in Rathdrum, Mr. Haley. You remember this one, Hager?
Well, tonight, Coeur d'Alene and Rathdrum's police chiefs can no longer act outside their city limits. That's according to public records obtained by our news partners over at the Coeur d'Alene Press. Those records state that Kootenai County Sheriff made the call. Graham 2's Amanda Rowley is in Coeur d'Alene to explain what that means for law enforcement in your community.
Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris took away special deputy status for the police chiefs in Coeur d'Alene and Rathdrum. This came as a surprise to those agencies who say there may be some impacts going forward.
In Idaho, city police can only act inside their city limits unless it's an emergency or another agency calls them in. But sheriffs can grant something called special deputy status, which lets those officers operate county-wide. Without it, police chiefs Lee White and Dan Haley can now only use policing powers within their city boundaries.
I was surprised. There's always that question that comes up as to why it occurred.
Chief Haley says people living in Rathdrum won't see any major changes, and while Haley can no longer operate countywide, he's relieved that most of his officers still can.
One of the easiest ways to explain the change is I see a traffic infraction at one of the lights on Highway 41 going to Post Falls. Once when I'm outside of the city limits, I am no longer able to stop that person.
And Chief White in Coeur d'Alene says SWAT will likely see the biggest impact. He told me Coeur d'Alene officers make up about 2/3 of the county's joint agency SWAT team. Both city and county SWAT members will still jointly respond to calls. But White says the sheriff's office will have complete control of individual city officers on what they can or can't do without any oversight from Coeur d'Alene PD leadership. Meantime, Chief Haley hopes the sheriff will reinstate this status.
I would like to continue to be able to be a force multiplier for the residents even outside of Rathdrum. I live and work in Kootenai County, and so I care about what occurs within that jurisdiction.
The sheriff's office says Sheriff Norris will not be commenting on the issue, but Chief White says this all stems from the sheriff being unhappy about the investigation into his involvement in the February town hall incident. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
So it's a known fact. Bob Norris did that, took away the deputizations, cross-deputizations of Chief White. Captain Hagar, the one that directed the lieutenant to start the investigation on Penny Collinson and Casey Whalen after he effed you. Why in the world did you just say, no, we're not doing that, Bob? If you think it's criminal defamation, call Idaho State Patrol or call somebody else, but don't call us. We're not doing you anything unless maybe there's something behind the scenes, Hager, that we should know about. I mean, I still am curious as to why Gookin was so hell-bent on keeping you on board over the next chief. I say it's because, Hager, you know where the bodies are buried. But Nelson, let's talk back about you. Let's go to our slide again. Because Brett Nelson, you could have said to Bob Norris, no, I am not doing this. But you participate in the bullying of journalists, and this is what you do. Right after the town hall incident, Brett, in February of 2025, 2 days after the event, you put out this press release. Clarification of the town hall incident. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is aware of the incident involving Sheriff Norris at the town hall event on Saturday, February 22nd at Coeur d'Alene High School. For clarification, there were no Kootenai County deputy sheriffs or other personnel present at or involved in this incident. The Coeur d'Alene Police Department is handling the criminal investigation regarding this matter. KCSO will have a complete and independent investigation of the incident conducted by an outside agency. Nelson, you are a liar. Bob Norris, you are a liar. We know that investigation never happened. So what does this mean? It means that Bob can do things that, look, the Coeur d'Alene PD were correct when they placed charges against Truett and his minions. And if you read through Haley, who is, I don't even know if they gave him his cross-deputization back. He's now the chief of Rathdrum PD. If you read through the report, you would realize that Bob Norris was responsible for directing and participating in the batteries and in the kidnapping of Teresa Bornpole. And he didn't like that. Well, Bob, you're going to get your comeuppance at the civil lawsuit the civil trial that you're going to be going through. But Haley did the right thing. And Hager, you completely acquiesced to Bob Norris. It embarrassed your department. And by the way, you're the same captain that's not directing Detective Welch to say, why is Bob Norris trying to interfere with my investigation? I know, because it's politics. You don't want to get involved. It doesn't matter that a kid is sitting in solitary confinement. It doesn't matter that you were provided, Welch, with evidence and text messages of what was going on, you're providing no equal justice under the law. Back to government. Government, its ultimate end is to ensure justice. You ensure justice by ensuring that people's rights are not infringed upon. But how does government, if its ultimate responsibility is to protect your rights, how does this occur? It occurs one of three ways. The government protects you against foreign invaders, those outside our country, the federal government, from attacking our homeland. The second way they do it is civilly, right here in our own communities, federal law enforcement included, but it is to protect you against those citizens that would deprive you of your rights to life, liberty, and property. That's why we have sheriff's offices, and police officers, and police departments, federal law enforcement. And lastly, the government is supposed to protect you against the government itself, because if we have a government that is powerful enough to protect us against foreign invaders and against those that would usurp our rights to life, liberty, and property, that government is also all-powerful enough to violate your rights. Your rights. We give the power to the government, those among us, to carry out these duties. So how did the founders ever come up with a way to protect the people against the government itself? And you're seeing, I will argue all day long that you are seeing now weaponization in Kootenai County of law enforcement being used to bully people and to not serve justice. Let's talk about selective enforcement again. Stan Mortensen. Part of the things that erode our rights. When government abuses us, it is called no equal protection. We saw no equal protection in 2020 when people were told stay home, but they allowed Black Lives Matter to burn down cities. Nobody went to jail over it. Here locally, you have Doug Parker, several months ago, back in around February, takes a handgun, shoves it in a young man's chest, and threatens to kill him over riding a motorcycle with his friends on land that Doug Parker did not own. And he's arrested, and it sounds like, we still don't know the full answer, but it sounds like he was given preferential treatment, that Bob Norris stepped in, and there was an attempt to change some of the charges, but not to let him stay overnight in the jail. Got to go home because he had a medical condition. His trial, by the way, is set for August of this year. It's expected to be 2 days. But then contrast with Ryan McClintock. Now, again, I'm not excusing anything that Ryan McClintock did, but let's talk about comparison. Ryan McClintock threatens the sheriff with arrest. He takes a baseball bat down. He's going to go clean house. He breaks property. He vandalizes property. Okay, not good. There should be consequences for this. But here you have this kid that destroyed property. He never put a loaded gun in some kid's chest. The difference? McClintock charged with terrorism. And he's been sitting in solitary or isolation for 2 months. Is that equal protection under the law? Or is that a rich businessman can afford to get out of the problems that he creates to a large degree? Because, you know, after all, the community knows him. He's a well-known guy. Doesn't matter that he took a loaded gun and shoved it in the chest of a kid, threatening to kill him over riding a motorcycle. Again, Norris at the town hall. No independent investigation was taking place, despite the fact that we were promised. But he's going to go investigate Casey Whalen and Penny Collinson. That, And by the way, remember, not only did Penny Collinson file the tort claim against Bob, but we broke down for an hour a show of Bob Norris being caught on a unreported traffic stop involving Penny Collinson, where Bob stops a vehicle last summer, ends up taking the person he stops car and blocking in Penny Collinson. There is no record of that stop, the constitutionality of it. Remember, but the sheriff can direct Coeur d'Alene PD, his apparent lapdog, Dave Hager, Captain Hager, to carry out. And look, we went back to what Dan Gookin said. Bob Norris wanted to target and go after Casey Whalen. Is that what a sheriff's supposed to do? Is to target citizens? No direction by Coeur d'Alene PD to investigate Surplus, Padula, P-Tomb, and others involved in carrying out the attempted framing of me and Donna with McClintock. I still think that there's a chance that McClintock is actually a victim, and I want to know if Coeur d'Alene Police has gone further than the days of that event to figure out who his associates were prior to the break, the mental break, who was doing mushrooms with him, who is giving him this anonymous source. But where's Stan Mortensen? Stan Mortensen, like always, completely unable to come out as the prosecuting attorney and make any statements. Duke Johnson, no statements. Abuse of the people by the executive. Failure to provide equal protection under the law is what ends up taking governments down and what makes people hate their local officials. Weaponizing the government itself. How do you set up a government powerful enough to protect people from turning on the people? We started this question out. Let's take a look at our slide. Let's go to number 11. Federalist 51, penned by the constitutional architect James Madison, talks about on human nature. Remember, Constitution 101, our founders believed the laws of nature and nature's God, the natural law that all men created equal. We have rights that transcend time and space. This is what he had to say about government and human nature. It may be a reflection on human nature that such devices should be necessary to control the abuses of government. But what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. Common sense, right? In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. And to all you Christians out there that are trying to cram your beliefs down the general public now that has no belief in God, the Republic was originally set up by Christian European men that believed commonly, and they believed what the Bible said of doing to others that you would have them do unto you, and to treat your neighbor better than yourself. And the founders over and over said this government is wholly for a moral and righteous people, because morally righteous people self-govern themselves to not infringe on others' rights. Next page. Madison goes on to say in 51, regarding on the need for interior checks and balances, to what expedient then shall we finally resort for maintaining in practice the necessary partition of power among the several departments as laid down in the Constitution? The only answer that can be given is that as all these exterior provisions are found to be inadequate, the defect must be supplied. So by contriving the interior structure of the government as that its several constituent parts may, by their mutual relations, be the means of keeping each other in their proper places. Got to be accountability. And lastly, on protecting minorities and justice, Casey Whalen could be considered in this case a minority, not by gender or by race, but he's out there doing something that nobody else is doing. There's not a lot of citizen journalists like Casey. Madison said, justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been and never will be pursued until it be obtained or until liberty be lost in the pursuit. Pull that slide down. That was Madison in 51 arguing the way we keep everyone in check in government is through the separation of power. And unlike Bryant Bushling, that isn't really the scholar that he thinks he is, and he thinks that it just applies to the federal government, not interfering one branch with another. It is a concept, Bryant Bushling and others, that I have continually stated over and over again. Everything in our government flows from the original architecture of the Constitution, which means all are equal in authority. They are also separate, accountable to each other, but not ruled by any of the other two. And in the case here in Kootenai County, we are seeing, my belief, as well as what they're seeing in Festus and down in California, they're not seeing separation of powers. Nobody is holding anybody accountable. When was the last time you heard Leslie Duncan or Bruce Matari or Mark Eberlein, county commissioners, the representation of the Congress here in Kootenai County, ever admonish publicly Bob Norris for what he is doing and what he's been doing for the past at least 2 years, and it probably goes even further than that? When you hear Stan Mortensen, your prosecuting attorney, come out and challenge Bob Norris, or our coroner, Dr. Duke, coming out, who is the only legal authority to be able to arrest a sheriff. The founders in all their brilliancy knew that in order to have a good government, you have to have laws that are passed by your elected officials. Then you have to have the executive that enforces the laws. Then you have the judicial that rule on the laws and those that break it or are alleged to break it. And then you have the executive that carries out the punishment. Before we go on to the declaration, Don, have you got anything to interject? I know I've been doing the majority of the talking. Nope. This leads me back to, once again, we're having this conversation about no equal protection under the law, no due process for certain people. Whether it's council members voting against the wishes of their constituents, whether it's in Kootenai County when we tell them not only no, but hell no about the LPRs, and they decide to fund it anyway because they're not going to tell the sheriff no. When Bob Norris continues to stack the town halls with his former wretched retired Southern California law enforcement cronies that are up here on their hundreds of thousands of dollars of retirement, many of them. Bob Norris, of course, $190,000 of his disability retirement that he gets in addition to being sheriff up here. And they stack the deck to try to make everybody think this is about officer safety and the public protection, but we've told them no. And then you have citizens like Janet and John Polk that try to have these secret meetings in the city to discuss city business with county officials like Bruce Matari, the cohort of Sheriff Bob Norris, that are attempting to bring the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Lee Baca contract law enforcement model to Kootenai County because, you know, we're so much similar to LA. Government is not listening to the people. We're seeing the weaponization of law enforcement right here in this county by an out of control sheriff. And nothing but cowards among all of our electeds that are either got their heads so far up their asses, they're not paying attention, or they're afraid of the sheriff, or they're complicit with the sheriff because they think all of us are stupid and that we somehow serve them. Let's go to what the founders had to say 250 years ago. This is important. Penned by Thomas Jefferson, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. We're going to leave that right there. Because if you have an executive branch not doing its job by protecting the people's rights here, as law enforcement is sworn to do, you have a sheriff that has the ability to weaponize law enforcement against his opponents, rather than using the civil process, which he's more than capable of doing. He's sending a message. If you claim that I did something to you, I'll offer $10,000 reward, which is small peanuts to me since I make over $190,000 a year in just disability retirement from Los Angeles. I'll use the resources of the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office to show how big and bad the weight of the badge to silence those that have accused me of wrong. And if somebody reports, doesn't give me glowing reviews, I'll send law enforcement from other agencies to investigate, to cause them harassment, to invoke fear in them. Give me a break, Bob. Criminal for slander? You guys are idiots. Criminal defamation? Slander? Are you kidding me? Little big man. Here's where you guys can do something if you're actually inclined to stand up for your liberty, or you can sit on the sidelines, continue munching your Cheetos and watching whatever national sports team is playing right now. Because you know what? I'm a Republican. We're in a Republican state. At the end of the day, Democrats bad, liberals bad, conservatives and MAGA good. As long as those other people's rights are violated and mine are okay, I don't care. We're going to provide a QR code. So it'll take you to a page that has the email addresses of the following individuals. And I'm requesting that you contact them via email. One will be a phone number. And voice your concern about what's going on here in Kootenai County with Bob Norris and his bullying use of law enforcement to carry out his bullying campaign. and to investigate what he's doing, interfering with an active investigation and attempting to seize evidence out from under Coeur d'Alene PD, since Coeur d'Alene Police doesn't care about it. You're going to be able to contact directly prosecuting attorney, Cooney County Prosecuting Attorney Stan Mortensen, County Commissioners Leslie Duncan and Mark Eberline, Cooney County Coroner Duke Johnson, Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador, the local United States District Attorney Office. There'll be a phone number for that one. And if you're so inclined, contact the ACLU. I mean, I've never been a real big fan, but we're at a point now where so many civil liberties are continually being violated, my opinion. Brent Reagan won't hold anybody accountable because, of course, he's tied up in the lawsuit with Teresa Bornpole and Bob. So none of these, and of course, he's not the leader anymore, but we don't have any leaders from the Republican Party that will put Bob on a short leash because you all are cowards of the sheriff. Nobody should be afraid of the sheriff but wrongdoers. And we know the sheriff goes hunting with John Padula. Judges go hunting with John Padula. Wonder what hunting really is.
Yeah, I want to know who's on the list that goes hunting with John Padula. That is my question. In summary tonight, what we're talking about is you have elected officials from Missouri to California who they have been successfully recalled in two of these instances that we've talked about tonight. And you have these officials who have been successfully and legally recalled, and they are refusing to leave their positions. We've got people on the live stream tonight who are in the comments that are like, thank goodness for Trump. And he calls out media that's not really media. It's controlled. And thank goodness for Trump. But yet in this administration, you have elected officials that are making up their own rules who have been successfully recalled because they're not listening to the voting population. They're not listening to citizens. Citizens do what they have it in their right and power to do, and they just refuse to leave office. And then Dan has brought this full circle by saying here in Kootenai County, we've got information about your sitting sheriff and Coeur d'Alene city officials involved in these recent incidents,
retaliatory investigations.
Yes, against citizens. And we have many unanswered questions about that because it could be, and these are questions that are being asked. We don't know what was going on behind the scenes in the Ryan McClintock incident. And again, not justifying his actions whatsoever, and there need to be consequences for that. But what was going on behind the scenes with some of these goons who appear to operate on behalf of Sheriff Norris? What was the involvement there? And Coeur d'Alene police, who they don't even want to look into it.
Yeah, it's all politics. They don't
so
care.
That's what we're talking about is you got Sheriff Norris who's going against members of the media, and I was talking to a journalist today and it says, okay, yeah, none of us are media unless you're controlled by the people who will publish what Bob Norris wants published.
Yeah, well, Bob's never read the freaking Constitution, the First Amendment, because apparently there's some kind of test and limit as to who can or can't be the press. This is what happens when you hire an imbecile, when you elect an imbecile that knows nothing about the Constitution, knows nothing about the founders, knows nothing about the great history of these United States. You wind up with a bumbling fool, Bob Norris, and all of his high school lackeys, Pillsbury P-Tomb, Brett Surplus, Keith Bowe, all of them. But the government right now in Kootenai County is not doing what the government's supposed to do. Don't let them con you. We're finding this out every day, more and more and more.
I want you to address this. You kind of started to and didn't really end up there, but there's this comment from Stacy Gimlin, who's been really active on the program tonight. She's got a lot of mouthfuls to say and to sling. So one of her points to ponder, she said, to clarify, I'm getting the sarcasm in this. Do I become a journalist because I have a podcast and decide to run quote, news stories without any sort of journalism background or network affiliation. Just curious what it takes to become a journalist. So I want you to address that from a constitutional standpoint.
There is no test. There is no qualification in the United States Constitution. And remember, the very first press in our country were not certified press people. They were dudes that decided we want to run a paper or we want to report on what's going on. It's only in the last 150, 200 years that people will go to school to work for the big corporations. But we, the people, anybody that pays attention to what the government's doing and reports on it is the press. I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand.
No, because it's been controlled by your large networks, and that was the tongue in cheek there from Stacey is, well, you don't have an affiliation from a 3-letter broadcaster, so how dare you? How dare you?
Well,
but what you end
if
up
that person is truly being sarcastic like that, you're a fool.
Oh.
You're the very reason the Constitution is going by the wayside, because you're an uneducated fool.
And on that, I want to address some of these that I put placeholders for. So some of this is going to go back to earlier in the program. BlackRock locked out, and I'll try to remember. Did you know that Cannabis Kid owns Bill's Heating and Cooling? He also owns a bunch of
We
rentals.
do know that. We do know that.
And then give me a little bit of context surrounding that. Can you remind me?
Well, I mean, no, I don't know the details,
Kootenai
but yeah.
Corruption. We were talking about Bob Norris, active lawsuits and other tort claims. Kootenai County Corruption says, and because this is another one that I haven't even put together in the article I'm working on, but has a tort claim pending as well on behalf of Mary Molino. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but that one's for $5 million. He's through this program. He's already, Jason Stanley of Kootenai County Corruption, as he's said here in the comments, has already emailed us that tort claim. So we will add that to our list and publish it. Shelley Reeves wants to know who audits the jails.
Good question. That is former sheriff before Bob Norris, Ben Wolfinger. And, ask yourself why it is that the jail can not pass inspection year after year after year, and there's no consequences.
Stacey Gimlin, again, really active in this week's live stream, was calling you out, Dan, for name calling, because I want to say you called Brett Nelson, so I'm getting my memory at the time this comment was made, Brett Nelson a cuck.
Yep.
She says name calling. That seems mature.
No,
and you will get your point across.
It's an accurate description of a man that does what other people tell them to in an effeminate role.
She says name calling is liberal nonsense and childish.
That's your opinion, and you're entitled to your wrong opinion.
Okay, so we know that Kootenai County Corruption. Let's see what he was bringing up. The Idaho Sheriff's Association jail inspectors, Ben Wolfinger, so he was commenting on that as well. The same man who worked at Kootenai County Jail for nearly 30 years and served as Kootenai County Sheriff.
And by the way, he knows better. He should be able to come out and comment that Bob's doing shitty things, and he doesn't. And why doesn't he do it? Well, could it be because he makes a business out of inspecting jails?
Yeah, everybody's got something to protect there. Jessica Height, Ryan McClintock's sister, that makes this comment important to understand context as to who Jessica is. She says there's been 2 successful terrorism prosecutions in Idaho. One ended in death. The other was someone who said they had planted bombs all over the city and threatened to kill everyone. So what's being demonstrated here is that you have the terrorism.
It's ludicrous.
Against
charge.
Ryan. The charge.
It was overcharged. There's been, in my opinion, injustice done to Ryan since day one. Again, put a gun in a kid's chest, walk away, claim you have a medical condition, and you don't serve any time behind bars, but you break windows out, and while you are under the influence of a substance, make threats, which again, there should be consequences, but you throw the kid without any prior criminal record, you throw him in isolation, cruel and unusual punishment at all,
Let's see. DFlock Idaho wanted to know what the LPR is What LPR is Kootenai County using?
They were using the Motorola M50s with the 500s, and that was defunded, the Vigilance software. The cameras are still mounted on approximately 50 patrol vehicles, so they are using the video camera portion, but allegedly the LPR is not working. Haven't investigated enough to know if that is 100% true. But other than that, there are other I believe it's flock cameras that are being used in Post Falls and in Coeur d'Alene. I think the last time I saw them in Coeur d'Alene, they were right at the corner of 4th and Appleway, somewhere in there. And then I could be wrong on that, but then there was also a couple that were there at the at Post Falls off I-90.
I like this comment that just left from Heretic Poltergeist. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. Wants to know, is it liberal when Trump calls people names?
Liberal or libel?
Well, because you had that accusation from the listener today saying that you doing name calling is childish and it is a liberal tactic.
Look,
so he wants to know is, well, in that case, is it liberal? If Stacey Gimlin is a Trump supporter, which is kind of what I'm gathering from the comment she's leaving, then what are we calling it when Trump does? Because we know he's pretty damn good at
That's
doing
why I
that.
don't listen to 90% of you, because you're also the same people that go to church on Sunday and you'll put Bible verses in your avatar. I guess you call it avatar, your profile. You guys are walking contradictions, and there is nothing wrong with taking the fight to people that are doing wrong. I have no problem with it. I have no problem using the language that at the time I feel that is necessary. And I'm going to, because what we are dealing with is so egregious. It is so insane, and in many cases, it is evil. You got to fight. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you become like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, so that they can become wise in their own eyes. Right, Brett Surplus? The sexual deviant, my belief.
Yeah. T-Flock, Idaho. Please email us at info@libertywithoutcompromise.com. Again, info@libertywithoutcompromise.com. We can set that up. Sounds interesting to me. I think, yeah, something we should do. I want to let you guys know that we did get a limited run of these Liberty Without Compromise premium hats available there on the website, and put the comments down so you guys can use that QR code. And you got also your accountability contacts up here in the corner. It's going to be the left-hand corner of your screen. That's the names and numbers you need to contact for elected officials that call for accountability, so you can do that there. And then right here, these hats, it's a limited run, so I'm sorry. I think one of the styles actually is already sold out, but you can log on and see if you like what's there and get your hands on one of those while they are available. For other information, you can visit our website at libertywithoutcompromise.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is at the Idaho Sheriff. All of our live stream episodes are permanently archived there on our YouTube channel. That is why that one's especially important to subscribe to, at the Idaho Sheriff. Thanks to those of you who joined us on TikTok Live tonight. I actually think we're going to get banned from that platform pretty soon. We got warnings.
For what?
They don't like you. They don't like you saying stuff. It's bullying.
They can pound sand.
So,
I don't give a shit.
I don't think we're long lived for the TikTok platform, but that is okay, because he says it like it is. He's out here telling the truth, and he's bringing evidence to back it up.
Don't be fat and undisciplined. All you beta males out there, start growing a backbone. Get yourself emotionally and physically and spiritually ready to secure your country. If you don't secure your country and your government, you deserve the complete usurpation of your rights. For all my other friends that are holding the line, remember, stay strong. Stay courageous. Pray for my buddy, Jim. We'll see you guys next week. Bring your favorite beverage and a cigar. I'll see you here.
Thanks for joining us tonight on libertywithoutcompromise.com. Again, we are the only live local liberty-minded program right here in Kootenai County, where we're looking at what you have to say about us, good or bad, live, and responding to it, and bringing you tons of information, resources, evidence, all the good stuff. Watch those past episodes and view other exclusive reports on our website, including newly published articles. That's at libertywithoutcompromise.com. And for our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Stay connected on Facebook. We're very active there throughout the week between Wednesday and Wednesday. The things that happen and stuff like this right here. You want to see this and get involved in this conversation.
Only 4 viewers. How many views did you get on that already in 24 hours?
That one in less than 24 hours. We know we had 10,000 of you that saw the photo post there on Facebook, and quite a lot of you had something to say about it.
How many were you up to on the McClintock?
McClintock, we're at about 100,000 on that. So we appreciate Jessica Haidt, Ryan McClintock's sister, being willing to come forward boldly and speak out, and she still is. She joins us here on the live stream each week to say, there's a lot of stuff. It's messed up here in Kootenai County, and she's been bold to come forward and say that. Want you, Jessica, to know 100,000 people have seen that message via our Facebook page. That's at the Idaho Sheriff. If you haven't followed us there on Facebook yet, you're going to want to do that.
Think of all the pastors like Van Noy, Tim Remington, John Padula, Jim Putman, all involved with these power players.
Yep. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Talk to us through social media. Meantime.